So welcome to the Man of the Law podcast. It's good to talk to you. Today I'm here with Anthony. He's a tactical strength coach. He's also the founder of Heroic Industries, and he also has a podcast on YouTube, Heroic Nation Podcast, so you can check him out on YouTube also. And we're kind of talking because we're both, active police officers. You're more into the strength and conditioning. I kind of specialize in jujitsu and combatives and training police officers, but we're both kind of, doing the same thing and kind of, helping to better police officers' lives. And I know yours extends more to kind of everybody too. And, I train regular people in jujitsu too, and kind of cover it, that way also. But you've been an active police officer for many, many years, SWAT. I know you were an athlete for a very long time, played football, CrossFit, and you're also, a busy father, and you've got a family, and you're working a full-time job just like me, trying to,
Yeah.
you know, keep all the pieces together and keep everything going. So welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
So let's talk about, Heroic Industries a little bit and kind of how that came about and, kind of what do you think kind of, separates, your kind of fitness program from everybody else's?
Well, it came about. I think it was back, I had a couple years on. It was probably 2012. Yeah, 2012. It was right when I started getting into CrossFit pretty hard.
Mm.
I started looking at it and I come from a background, like you said, of like, field and court sport athletes. I was a wrestler, football player, college football player. So that was my whole world as far as like training. It was always like training for football. How do I train to hit people harder and
Sure.
like play the game better, right? And once I was done playing ball, and I was like, I think I want to be a cop, right? And then I start looking at like, because I always loved training. Like my favorite part of the football season was maybe the off season. I mean, I guess that's not entirely true. Like we all like playing,
Yeah.
putting the pads on and stuff. But I loved every aspect of football, every part of it, including the grind of the off season. And I was like, well, you can't play the game after a certain point. Like I played small college ball. It's not like I was going to get drafted. So it was
Right.
like you're going to have to take those pads off, but you can still do a lot that keeps you in that mindset and that frame of as an athlete. And then
Hmm.
I found CrossFit and I was like, oh, well, this is like the same training, just without it just makes it a sport itself. And I was pretty good at that.
Yeah.
So I got really deep into that. And then when I got hired on my department, I was like, man, and that was back when CrossFit was really still grassroots. And it was like cops, firefighters, military, and then a few other weirdos in their garages. And it
Hmm.
was really cool then. And not like it is now.
Right.
But yeah, so like I got into that. And then CrossFit Indy Shield was a non-for-profit affiliate that Indianapolis Metro Police had. And that's where they ran all the level one seminars. I went down there and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to bring this to our department. And it started and it went and it was very short-lived because
Right.
of politics and people in charge and blah blah
Sure.
blah. Well, we got a bunch of cool equipment out of it, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden they decided that they wanted to run their own thing. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll I don't know if they thought I was just going to go away or whatever, but I was like, well, I can take everything that I already know and I'll just start my own affiliate, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I ran that for, I don't know, about a decade and then sold that. And it expanded a lot more than kind of what I wanted. It got pretty big. So I expanded, like you said, like outside the scope of just law enforcement.
Hmm.
But on the back end of selling it and getting out of it and kind of going back to what I originally set out to do, which was train cops, train first responders, and people with that specific mindset, you know, uh, like that's really what heroic industry is back doing, right? So it's kind of like I went full circle with it.
Yeah.
And in the process, I really learned a lot about like, especially with CrossFit. Like you take CrossFit, you take field field and court sport training, so like athletic training and how do those things overlap? What's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't.
Mm.
And there's a lot of good things I took from CrossFit, and there's a lot of things that I will never do again. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
like you got to take the good with the bad, and in no ways is it a CrossFit based. program, but I did learn a ton, and I trained with Olympians, I trained with professional athletes. I got to train with tons of awesome people because of the level that I got to within the sport and within the
Mm.
community. So there's a lot of good things I took from it, and and a lot of stuff that I throw out and don't really use as much anymore. So it's just a combination of all those things, and really just training first responders, cops especially, like athletes that we are. So that's a
Right.
long-winded way to say just that.
Yeah. And that's kind of, what I saw too when I first started as a police officer in 2011. And the first thing I kind of realized, like, well, one, was I, in good enough shape? And two, could I handle an incident on the street? I was in good shape coming out of the academy, or pretty good shape, I thought, physically, but I really had no grappling skills or anything like that. And, the small bit of stuff they teach you in the academy and in defensive tactics. And the honest question that I answered was, if I had to deal with something myself, I don't think I could really handle it the way I should. So I need to seek out training on my own. And it's just like anything else. And, you just got to kind of be honest with yourself. And I think, with fitness and nutrition, and that's the same thing. We have a job where we're called on to do physical demanding things, whether it's police or fire or whatever first responder you are. And, part of taking care of ourselves and, training is, I think, a big part of it. And obviously you think the same way too. So,
Yeah, I mean it's a non-negotiable, and it's like, and like you hit the nail on the head. You seek it out on your own. And I really get tired of the the attitude of like, well, they should provide it to us. Well, they do provide it to you, but it's the government. Like, let's be honest, we work for a government agency. The bar is going to be very low. It's going to be too low.
right.
So it's your job to go and seek it out
Yeah.
outside. Like that's your job,
Right.
And it's like what other profession would they demand that? None, but it doesn't matter. Like, because we're here,
Right.
too
Right.
bad.
And you're still going to get that call on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever, and either you're going to be able and capable to respond properly, or you're not. And that's
Yeah.
just, the kind of basic answer. And I don't comment too much on, the YouTube videos or the Instagram videos, but they're every day where police officers are out of shape, winded, gassed out, have no grappling skills. We see it day in and day out, and people keep asking, like, why are we solving this problem?
Yeah, that's such a it's like a simple but not simple answer,
Yes.
and it's
Hmm.
like number one, there's no standardized definition for any of us, right?
Right.
Like I work in the state of Indiana, and the biggest thing that if they wanted to change the culture and change the standard, like all you have to do is have an operational definition of what it means to be fit for duty, period.
Yes.
Just have the state do it, have it built into the law. If you do
Hmm.
that, then we all know the field that we're playing inside of. Right now, it's so just hit or miss where it's like, well, you're not fit for duty. Well, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? There's no definition, so you can't get somebody off the street that's like that unless they don't pass a qual and you have a departmental like standard that has that. So you have to set a definition and you have to have a standard, and there just isn't one.
No. Yeah. Yeah, until something happens, somebody gets injured, and then they just go on, IOD or something like that. But yeah,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
only reason you'd get taken off is maybe if you didn't qualify with your firearm. But that would
Right.
be where there's an actual state standard, which is minimum at best anyway. So most people pass that. But there is no continued physical standard in police work. We don't have it here in Chicago either. We have a fitness test every year. You could sign up for it and you get paid for it as like a benefit if you want to do it, but you don't have to do it. So once you leave the academy, you could just completely let yourself go and never do anything again. And there really is no consequence for it, except, your personal health and maybe your safety or somebody else's safety.
Right. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
that. Just that.
Right. Just
Uh,
those big things, right? Just those little things.
yeah.
Exactly. So we're both kind of on the same page, but we'll get into jujitsu later because we're more talking about you today, and maybe
Well,
you
I
can
just
have
got I
me.
just got back from jits. I just got my ass
Oh,
beat.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can have me on your podcast. We could just talk jujitsu.
So anytime.
Yeah, but you know, I see your training as a little bit different, and I looked on your app. You have the Heroic Industries app, and that's pretty new, right?
Yep.
And I saw in there you kind of have, as I was breezing through it, you have like four main things. One is like functional, the other's kettlebell only. Then you have aerobic systems, and then you have stress 101. So could you kind of like say I'm a police officer or a fireman or a first responder, and I go to this app like and I want to start, working out and getting healthier. What does kind of this app provide?
So it's got multiple different programs in there. Like you said, the kettlebell, the aerobic systems. Um, there's more of like a functional, like almost like beginner level. And then there's the heroic tactical, which is my ongoing program. So that's kind of like a hybrid program where it's got a lot of everything kind of built in. But yeah, it's really just kind of like choose your own adventure. So they're different 6 week, 8 week, 4 week programs, depending on what it is. If you've got something that you feel like you are deficient in, like say, hey, like I have no aerobic capacity, right? Or I really like rowing and running. Like, okay, cool. Then this like jump on the aerobic track. Right? It goes into a lot of depth with short interval, long interval tempo work, as well as breathing, mechanics, stuff like that. A side note, that's really, really good. And I use that for some of my clients where it's like, hey, we have a real problem with down regulation and we get too amped up, right? That's a
Yes.
huge problem, especially when we're talking about like honestly, like our audiences, right? Dudes like us, where it's like I like jits, I like lifting, I like doing all
Hmm.
the things that I should do to a fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we can't shut it off, and that leads to all kinds of other problems down the road in the other direction. So we have to really balance things out. So yeah, so the app's got all that built in. The kind of the flagship program there's the Heroic Tactical, and that consists of like a 3 day a week conjugate style split. So it's like a powerlifting ish. It's like the base movements. Like I said, I took a lot of the stuff from CrossFit and kept it, took a lot of it and took it out. And one of the big mentors that I had over the years, two guys, Doug Chapman out of Ann Arbor, and then Shane Sweat out of CrossFit Conjugate or in Cincinnati. And those two guys, especially Shane, like Shane is like a direct lineage of Louis Simmons, right, with Westside. And I learned all the conjugate system from him and then Jason Gussick in Chesterton, Indiana with CrossFit. I'm sorry, not CrossFit, with Conjugate Tactical.
Right.
So those guys are awesome, and it's really just kind of like using that conjugate flavor and how you split it up, so you're getting your max effort days, your dynamic effort days, but using the movements and the exercise selection for what's like critical for us. So like I said, I took like what did I take out from CrossFit? Like we don't do any real Olympic lifting. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like occasionally we'll do some barbell Olympic lifting, but I don't think it's super important because as long as you can clean things, pick them up from the ground and put them on your shoulders and
Mhm.
snatch things overhead, it doesn't always have to be a barbell. You know what I mean? As long as you can
Right.
do that type of thing and you can do that movement, there's 100 different ways you can do it, and it's all relevant for what we do.
Right.
So, uh, so yeah, and then like the high level gymnastics, like don't really do much of that. But aside from that, like it's working energy systems, it's working, like I said, all the force velocity curve, all that kind of stuff. But it's built into an easy to follow, simple system that is pretty effective, I think. So.
Okay. No, that sounds great. Because I mean, like somebody could look at your page and you're a large, strong guy doing these big, heavy lifts. So, somebody that, really doesn't have any kind of background in lifting or anything like that, just an actual beginner, they could obviously take the app and start with you and you would, gear the program towards them, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the app is what the app is. Like it's got the program in. There's no like RX weights. There's no prescribed weights like for
Mhm.
stuff. It is here's the movement, do the movement, right? And it should be challenging, right? But if it's like there's no like it's a progress, it's a process. So if you start with an empty bar, if you start with like it doesn't matter, And the good thing about the app, the reason I built this app this way was because it allowed for also like a community feed, which is one of the most powerful things in there. So you can put your lifts in there, and it's like a super easy, like super cheap way to get really, I think, pretty good coaching. So
Yeah.
that's one. the one thing I got really good at as I ran my CrossFit gym was seeing a million different athletes do a million different squats and see how to fix that and how to tweak that and how to make that work, and I can do that for any movement under the sun. So
Mhm.
so if you do a lift, you record it, you dump it into the app, and you say, "Hey, does this suck?" And I say, "Yeah,
Mhm.
here's how we fix it," or "No, that looks pretty good," right? So I give my athletes feedback. So if you're in the community, if you're in the app, then you're going to get coaching. Like that's a non-negotiable. That's a
Oh, that's
difference.
great.
And that's the difference between like, like you got to be a good consumer as like if I'm looking at fitness products, if I'm looking at coaches, and in the age that we have now with AI, like
Yeah.
if you just want to program, go tell Chat GPT who you are, and it'll spit out a program for you, and it'll probably be okay, you know,
Right.
honestly. But so why would you even sign up for an app? Well, it better have some personal connection to somebody, and it better give me some coaching. Like that's what I think. So I made sure
Yeah.
I put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that connection with another human being, I think, helps too, where, anybody could just, it's same with like a diet plan too. Like you could write out the best diet plan too, but if you don't, that connection with somebody else who's helping you along with your progress, checking in on your progress, that makes a big difference too, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like, well, what if I hate this? How do I make it work? Like
Right.
the best program, like, and it took me years to figure this out. Like I can write you the best program and the best nutrition plan that I think that I know based on your demographics, like this will work for you. But I give it to you and you hate it. Like, are you going to do it? No. So
No. Yeah.
by default, what is the best program? The best program and the best nutrition plan is the one that you're going to stick to the most.
Yes.
So how do
Yeah.
we so how do we do that? And in order to really get to those answers, you need a human being to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Because, yeah, you can't just spit out a great diet plan and be like, well, you have to do this no matter what or whatever. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
got to
with
be able to work and function on a daily basis too. Yeah.
yeah.
So. But yeah, with, a little bit more about like, police officers, just, because I've seen it happen too. You get out of the academy and you get on a shift, whether it be midnights or afternoons or day shift even. And, we just kind of let ourselves go. Our eating habits get worse and worse. So what do you think kind of, how the job correlates with, kind of our health?
Man, like
I mean,
so
there's a lot of stuff the stress, the mental health, the hours, right?
yeah, I mean, so I guess are you asking like why that happens? Like the longer we're on, the worse shape we get in?
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a drift. You know what I mean? Like if you don't make it a priority, you just kind of drift. And
Hmm.
a lot of what I've been looking into with guys, especially guys on like, 7, 10, 15 years in, is like, what are your goals? Because
Hmm.
like when we're new, our goals are a lot of times are just to go and have experiences, right? Like we just want to get out on the street and do everything. And then
Right.
we might find like a special unit we want to get into, or we might find that we want to get promoted to like, the next level up. But, aside from that, and if you don't get that right away, a lot of times, like you end up just kind of floating and kind of being goalless and then things kind of fade out of importance. And then,
Mhm.
let's be honest, like the odds of you getting into a nasty situation that is going to require you to face a lethal threat statistically is pretty low. Like
Yeah.
you could hedge your bets and be like, I'm betting that I can be fat and out of shape or just not strong, right? And I'll probably be okay. Yeah, maybe. You
Mhm.
might be. But are you willing to take that gamble? And because we don't get that intermittent reinforcement schedule, it doesn't happen and it doesn't
Mhm.
happen and we're okay and it doesn't happen and we're okay,
Right.
then things just kind of fade out of importance
Yeah.
until it doesn't. And that's the thing. It's like you either get like a health crisis or you look up one day and you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And there's some existential crisis of like, who the fuck am I now?
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy? Like something like that. Either mentally you hit a bottom, physically you hit a bottom, medically you hit some crisis, or you do have some issue on the street where you're like, I was not physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared for this, you know,
Right.
and I made it. So now what? So now you have all these crossroads that you need to get to. So I guess it's more just like, how do we get to the point that we get to? It's like I think it's just an unconscious drift, and this is what happens when you don't when you aren't an active participant in like deciding where you're going. I
Right.
want to go here. Here's where I'm going. Here's where I'm advancing to. Here's who I'm becoming. If you lose sight of that or you don't have it, like you're growing or you're dying.
Right. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And then 10 years goes by and you've put on 35 pounds and your diet is completely out of whack. And yeah, I see it all the time too. And, and you add the stresses of the job and other things going on in your life. And, I've seen it too with other officers. I've noticed they have a lot of back surgeries, hip surgeries, knee
Yeah, tell
problems.
me about that. Yeah.
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 Even,
Yeah.
officers that are in good shape. Right.
Right. I've had both my hips replaced, man. I've had
Right.
I've had two vertebrae in my necks replaced, along with like, half a dozen other orthopedic procedures. So a lot of that's my fault. A lot of that's me doing dumb stuff when I was young and playing football and doing that. So it's like, there's always a price to be paid.
Right.
But what like wear out or rust out is always a conversation too. But I will
Yes.
say like we have on the job, like we have an uphill battle. Like it is
Mhm.
not easy to stay in good shape when you are working midnights, period.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
shift work is hard on you. And even like a second shift, a mid shift. I work day shift. I still got to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Like that's not good for you, you
Right.
know? So it is an uphill battle. And that's why it's even more important that you have a plan to follow, or at least a loose idea of how to undo the bad time. And you got to
Yeah.
undo it with a lot of conscious effort.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And, I I go at least 4 times a week to jujitsu. I teach and take classes. And, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are just real long days for me. I leave the house at 6, 7 in the morning, and I don't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And part of that is it's not that I'm motivated to do it. And you talk about this too. It's about the discipline. Like, yeah, on a Monday night, yeah, would I rather be chilling out at home? Of course I would. But I know the right thing to do is to go teach my class, to go take my class and do the hard things. And that's really what it is. It's the motivation with me comes and goes, and sometimes I'm loving it, and sometimes I'm like, it's just a grind, and I got to do it, and this is what it is, and this is kind of who I am. And I know you've talked about that on your show too, the discipline over the motivation.
Yeah, but it's even more than that. I mean, the term, like God bless Jocko and all these guys are like discipline over motivation. Yeah, yes, obviously, but like you need to understand it from a more like big picture standpoint. Like the motivation is just as important,
Yeah.
but that does come in cycles, right? So
Yeah.
it's like motivation, inspiration, and action, and those things kind of spin as a flywheel, and they have
Hmm.
to play off each other. And then, the discipline piece is important, but like you hit the nail on the head when you said it's just who I am, and
Right.
it becomes an identity.
Right.
And the identity, so like not to get too off in the weeds about it, like your identity and mine too is like, well, not only are we athletes and train, like we train and we love it, and it's who we are and what we do and how we've lived. So we can't think of any other way to do it, but it's also like we're instructors, so
Mhm.
we're teaching and we also love that.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to be like us to
Right.
be really good.
That's
You
true.
don't have to leave at 9 in the morning and come back at 10 o'clock and work a 12-hour shift. And in the middle of all this other stuff, you're also teaching classes. Like you don't have to do that.
Right.
You just got to get 45, 60 minutes in a few times a week. That's
That's
it.
true.
It's
Yeah.
really all you got to
That's
get.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can be a nutcase if you want like us. Like that's
Yeah.
totally fine. Like I encourage that. But
Right.
uh but it can be a lot less. And sometimes
Yeah.
like people see like CrossFitters and jujitsu black belts and like all these high level dudes and they're like I could never do that. It's like well maybe you
Yeah.
couldn't, but you
Like
you
I
don't
was even looking at your page today and I was like, I can't do that.
but you don't
You
you don't
were
have
you
to.
were doing those like deadlifts and then you had the expansions with it too with your legs. I was like, I can't. There's no way I could do that. You were like squatting and doing the stretch bands too. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
so that's actually really good for your back. Like that is
yeah.
so some modification of that though you could do for sure. But
Yeah, a modification, but not the weight you were doing. You were doing some serious weight. Yeah.
but yeah, so like that's but like people see that and they'll be like, oh, I could never do that. It's like, well, you don't have to do it that
Right.
way.
Right.
Like you don't have to do it. Yeah. So Like
Yeah.
don't what put the cart before the horse, I guess. Like just get
Yeah.
out there and start, you know, that's
Yeah.
all you got to do.
And I tell people that with jujitsu all the time. Jujitsu the same way. They're like, "Oh, this is too much. I can't do it." And I was like, "Can you just make one class a week? Just how about the police combatives class? Just one class. That's it. We'll start you from the beginning and get you there. You don't have to take three a week. Just take one. Start there." And I think that's a lot easier for them to kind of bite off and do. Yeah.
The man, jujitsu's hard because you got to get people comfortable touching each other. And
Yes.
if they've never done that,
Yes.
like it is an awkward thing to kind of like get people through. How do you what is there a way that you do that to make that a little bit more palatable for people, or you just say get in there and do it?
Usually we kind of ease them into it and we kind of keep them kind of off to the side and then they get a little more comfortable about their third or fourth class and then we kind of ease them into some rolling. So it's kind of it's kind of a slow thing into it that people that aren't used to that grappling, um, and I've had police officers the same way and I'm like, listen, you got to know how to do this. Like you have to grapple another human being. Like you got to get comfortable with this,
Yeah.
so yeah. And it's hard. A lot of people, don't like that, and they don't like the feeling of, not being in control. Because when you
Dude.
first start jujitsu,
Oh
usually you
man.
are not in control, and somebody's controlling you, and that takes a while to get used to being kind of the nail. You're not
Oh
the
man.
hammer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not kidding. There were some times when I was first like really starting that when
Hmm.
I was like a brand new white belt. And I was like an okay white belt because I had like a wrestling background and stuff.
Yeah.
But there were some dudes that just let me have it. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, getting pinned on the ground as I don't know what I was, like a 7-year, 5-year SWAT cop, like
Yeah.
thought I was pretty like I was pretty tough. And I got dudes like purple belts, blue belts just crushing me.
Hmm.
And there were some days when I was having a rough day going into it. Like, yeah, sometimes you're just like emotionally drained, right? Like from
Yeah.
whatever. And I remember going into class and being like, I need to be here. And then I just got my ass beat. And I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know if I feel better or worse, but I was so emotionally like tapped out from
Yeah.
just what you said, like just being on the bottom. I was like, I don't know if I feel better. I want to sit in the corner and cry.
Yeah, exactly right. Because you're just spent the whole time, and you just maybe barely survived the entire class, and yeah.
I tell you though, it's such a practice though. It's like, dude, like I lift a lot of weights. I think I'm pretty strong. Like I think I'm pretty good at grappling. And then like tonight, I had I had two dudes tap me out with they just caught me in a guillotine because I put my head in the wrong spot. And it's like,
Right.
man, these dudes aren't cops. They're not
Right.
even like who are these guys? Like they're
Yeah.
just Joe Schmo off the street. And if they can
Mhm.
catch me in a guillotine and tap me out, like, dude, anybody can get got.
Anybody
Like
can. Yeah,
anybody. Yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing with, police work too. A lot more people around the country are training jujitsu, mixed martial arts, wrestling, combative sports. So you might have to deal with somebody on the street that is, trained, and you got to
And
be
it's
ready for that.
And honestly, if you have any athletic background at all, like you already kind of know how to move, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of dudes that we go and put hands on the street, like have an athletic background, at least in middle school and high school, right?
Yes.
And then if you couple that with the fact, like if you take an athletic person
Hmm.
and you show them 6 videos of UFC, they'll be
Yeah.
able to mimic those good enough to be dangerous,
Absolutely.
even with no practice.
Yeah.
So like you got to be ready for it.
Yeah. And that's funny you say that because we just had a younger guy just come in, sign up. Like I think yesterday was his third class, and he's just really doing well, strong, athletic. And then I found him on Instagram, and of course he was like I think he was a D2 football player, So I was like,
Yeah.
there we go. So other athletes that come into it, they pick it up right away. They're just used to the, combative nature of it,
Yeah,
and
they got good hips, they got good
right.
balance, they got good base, they're strong. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Where somebody coming off the street with no kind of sports experience, those are kind of the tougher ones, and it takes a little longer for them to kind of ease into that training. Yeah. So, but yeah, So, where do you train at in Indiana?
I'm just kind of a nomad right now.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So I'm under James Klingerman, who's out of Indianapolis. That's who I'm training under.
Okay.
That's who I'm getting promoted through, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been like my gym's had a lot of turnover with ownership and style, and so I'm just kind of
Yeah, that happens. That
Trying to
happens.
feel my way out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being because I used to train with somebody else who was more like a bodybuilder, and he ended up moving out of Chicago, but he was always kind of in that balance of like how much should I lift or how much should I, train jujitsu, kind of finding that perfect
Yeah.
median.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of how you are, because like you always talk about being like a tactical athlete, right?
Right.
You want to be fit, you want to be strong, but you also want to be, able to be mobile and quick and speed and endurance. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that is a very loaded question because it's like, all right, so let's just look at like just lifting and jujitsu. Like, how do you balance those out? And there isn't really a balance. Like, if you want to be better at one, you're going to have to give up something somewhere.
Right.
So, like, let's say, for instance, like I just watched one of my buddies get promoted to black belt. He's another cop in my department, and I'm like a new purple belt, so like halfway through, right? And seeing him get promoted to black belt, I was like, oh man, this was really cool, and I really want to do that. So
Mhm.
now, what am I going to have to do with my 4 day a week lifting schedule and my 2 day a week jujitsu schedule? I'm going to have to make more time for jits. I'm going to have to
Right.
do it, or
Yeah.
it's going to take me way longer to do this thing. Like, how big a goal is it?
Right.
So I'm gonna have to look at that. I'm gonna have to shift things around, and maybe I go to 3 days a week of training, and I go to 3 days a week of jujitsu, something like
Mhm.
that. So I flex one day here, or if I really want to take a period of the year and I want to say I'm gonna go all in on jits, and I really want to, then I go 4 days a week and 2 days a week, right? And you do that for a period of I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, and then you shift things back the other way. So
Sure.
it's called periodization, and it doesn't have to be anything epically like confusing. You just pick a block of time, and you're like, I'm gonna get better at this skill set here. Okay, so that means I'm gonna have to like make room for it. And then if you notice, this is where a lot of jujitsu guys kind of get wrapped around the axle too. It's like, listen, skill is great. It's very important for the game for sure,
Mhm.
but there is a whole lot of stuff that gets missed because you're not strong. And I
Yes.
know it's kind of like the backhanded comment, like, oh, you're so strong. And
Yeah.
it's like if I had a nickel for every time I've had a dude tell me that, and it's
Right.
like an insult, then I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Like strength is a skill.
It is.
And the stronger you are, the better you'll be when you get skilled.
Yeah.
So
Because if you get me in side control, like I'm probably not getting out. Like if you're bigger and stronger, that's just the way it is. Like,
it,
there's
it,
only so far that technique goes. Size and strength is still a thing.
it
Physics is still real.
Yes, physics, exactly. Like
Yeah.
force production, biomechanics, and
Yeah.
physics. Those things matter.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not skilled and you count on just brute force, like obviously there's a ceiling for that too.
Yeah.
But but yeah, like you can't just play the game all the time. Like you're gonna have to put your ass in the weight room and make sure that you can produce force against a bar. Like, and if you can do that and you can get stronger, then that force production translates to another person really, really easily.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's very important to take time in the year to do that. Plus, I see this with high school athletes all the time, where it's like if you do the same motor patterns constantly all year round, you're gonna get hurt. Like you
Mhm.
can't throw a baseball all year round. I
Yeah.
see so many baseball injuries that it's crazy. Wrestlers are like second to that, where it's
Right.
like if you just wrestle all year long, you're going to get problems with your elbows and your biceps and shit like that. Like
Right.
neck. So that's why football, like you can't play football all year round. Like there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
break right in half.
Super hard on the body. Super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to change those motor patterns. And if you only squat all year round too, if you just squat heavy all year round, you will also get hurt. So you have to be able to modulate and periodize the year. And that's where having a coach to bounce the stuff off of is really nice. Even if it's just
Yeah.
somebody to have another set of eyes and be like, yeah, let's maybe try this and this. So you're not just trying to like piece it together yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way of putting it. Like, yeah, having that periodization and just saying, yeah, you're not going to give this up. You're just going to, just balance it out a little different and then bring the balance back. And yeah, I really like that idea. That sounds very
And
effective.
honestly, you do the same thing with nutrition. Like
Yeah,
that's a serious issue with like nutritional protocols too. It's like if I'm doing more jits, right? Let's say I'm doing more jits, then I'm gonna need more carbohydrates. It's more glycolytic thing. If
right.
I'm gonna do more sprint work, I'm gonna need more carbs. If I'm gonna do less of that, and I'm gonna do more just like if I want to focus on some aerobic stuff or some slower stuff or maybe just lifting and like no real like anaerobic work, then
Hmm.
maybe I don't need as many carbs, something like that. Like you can shift things up or down based on what your goal is for the year. And it's always making sure that you're using the right tool for the right job at the right time. And if you can piece those things together and pair them up, you'll have really good results. But especially during CrossFit, it was like it was like
Hmm.
you'd see people trying to go like keto, and it's like you can't do keto on CrossFit, man. Like you need carbohydrates or it doesn't work. Like
Yeah,
it's a
you're not going to have the fuel you need to do what you do. Right.
this is almost entirely glycolytic, which means it needs carbohydrates. And if you
Yeah.
don't have it, it won't work.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Right.
yeah, right. And you're working against yourself. So you have to make sure you're using the right tools for the right job.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, and what's kind of your biggest thing you got going now? Is it more the podcast, the app, or are you just kind of putting everything together?
No, it's really the app and I got my one-on-one clients that I keep to about 5 to 7. I don't do a whole lot with them, but or
Okay.
I don't do a whole lot of volume with them, but I do a ton with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep that volume really low in order to give, because like if I didn't have a full-time job, then it'd be no big deal. But
I know.
but there's that thing, hanging
Yeah.
around. So yeah, the app is a great way to get in and get on the program and start. And then if you're interested in one-on-one personalized programming, personalized nutrition, personalized, like mental health mindset stuff, like do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know it's just our jobs keep getting in the way of all this fun stuff we want to do. We just want to work out, do jujitsu, do some podcasts, talk to other people in the industry, and
Right.
like we got to go to work every day. I know it's
Dude,
crazy.
I tell you what though, it's like once a week, I'm in some podcasts and some social media like networks of like first responders and stuff. And it's
Hmm.
like every week it feels like one more dude's like, I quit, I'm doing this full time. It's like,
That's
man,
awesome. Yeah.
well, I mean, it's cool, but like, dude, I got like 18 and a half years on and I'm not bailing out before 20, that's for sure.
No,
Uh,
me neither. Yeah.
but
I've got about like 5 to 6 years before I can collect a pension. So
yeah.
like I have like 14, almost 15 years law enforcement. So I'm the same way. Like I'm gonna get a pension before I leave, if before I do anything else. Like, but more power to them if they can make the money and do it. That's great.
Yeah, but at this, like, I don't want to say I'm gonna sound like a dick, but like, I don't want to say I respect it less, but at the same time, it's like, dude, I'm out here coaching cops. Like, I want to make sure that I'm in the shit with you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
I agree with that. Yeah.
I feel like for me anyway, for me, I feel like I have a better perspective
Yeah.
of how to help the community
Yeah.
of, because I'm in it,
Right.
and I want to make sure that I get through it completely. Because like, I see some guys talk about, some coaches that I don't think are that good. And it's like, dude, you had like 5 years on the job and now you're
Hmm.
telling an 18, 19, 25-year dude how to do it. You
Right.
have no clue what it's like to go through that meat grinder for
Yeah.
20 years and
Right.
then tell them like, oh yeah, you should just do this. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like you
Yeah.
don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
And you can guess, but like, I don't know, man. I just like the more experiences I get on the job, the better I am at coaching it. And honestly, like the little adventures that we have every day, like
Hmm.
I don't want to give that up
Yeah.
as crazy as it is out here. And
Yeah. And that's one thing, like when I always ask police officers to come, like, I'm wearing a blue shirt just like they are. I'm still, on patrol, assigned to patrol and still doing the job. So it's like, I'm not like in an office somewhere, administrative, being a commander or something like that. So it's like they know I'm doing the same job they're doing.
right.
And what I do and what I teach is what I also would use on the street. So if I'm going to use it to save my life or somebody else's, I, feel comfortable teaching it to you too. So I think officers definitely connect with that because they're like, wait a second, this guy's working with me. He's doing the same job I'm doing. So yeah, maybe he's got something going here. So I definitely agree with that too. Yeah. So yeah. So well, I know it was brief tonight, but I'll let you go and feel free. We could talk again and tell us again where we can find you, your app
Uh,
and your YouTube page and
yeah.
Instagram.
Best way is Instagram. You can get me at Anthony underscore heroic industries. or you can go to the Heroic Industries page. Both of those are good. And then I'll have to send you the e or the website for the app itself, but you can go directly there. The best way is just to go off the link on my Instagram, though.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. And we'll check out your podcast on your YouTube channel also.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, much appreciated. And thanks for talking to me and thanks for being on the Men of the Law show tonight.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.